Welcome back to the Awakening Bodies podcast. This is the podcast where we dive deep into shifting your patterns so you can transform your life. I am your host, Lauren, with my husband, Sebastian. And this podcast is solely the main purpose of it is to dive deep into holistic health, high performance, and intuitive living. And so during this episode, we are going to talk into something that is really passionate and really exciting that we've been working on, and that is the building blocks for love and intimacy, our new course that is going to be launched the week of Valentine's Day. And let's dive into it.
So welcome. If you don't know who we are, there's plenty of episodes where we get to share our journey so far. And as we have been building a relationship for the past 10 years, the past 6 years have been the most intentional, specifically on continuing to have a deeper level of relationship, a deeper level of connection. Because maybe you can experience for yourself, if you're in a relationship or have been in the past, that in the beginning of the relationship, it's always fun. Things are good. Things are natural. It doesn't matter if there's an argument or disagreement, there is no conflict. Like, things are good regardless of. You fast forward, and then the smallest thing now gets you over the edge. And where there was once connection, there's now conflict, and now you guys are at war with the smallest thing. So if you're in a relationship, this is an opportunity for you to really dive deeper into how you can continue to sustain a level of connection with your partner. But Lauren and I have been through it. We continue to go through it. This happened yesterday, which I'm sure at some point in time, examples will come around. We're really good at sharing our life so you can see that we're not perfect. Because it's not about perfection, it's about progression. As we go through it, for us, it's a reminder that it's a consistent, intentional work. And the building blocks of love and intimacy is an opportunity for us to continue to deepen our relationship and deepen who we are to each other. At the same time, provide you with an opportunity to equip yourself. Because if you're in a relationship or wish to be in one, what kind of relationship do you wish to be in? Do you wish to be in one where there's excitement, connection, peace, adventure, passion? Have you thought about that? I'm sure it's a rhetorical question because who wouldn't want that? If you're trying to get into a relationship to make it miserable, then maybe there's something else for you to explore for yourself.
I mean, I don't think anyone's.
And I don't think so either. But, you're so full of people.
Well, what does that mean? Oh, okay. I was really confused where you were going with that.
So with those blocks of love and intimacy, it's for us to create a roadmap. This is a game plan. For us to start this journey of sharing with you what we've been able to create to get us to where we're at. It's really a humbling experience. For me, for a while, people used to tell me, you should put some stuff together for relationships because you really support us. A couple of weeks ago, somebody was telling me that they wish that we would have put something together in time when X and him were together, because maybe they'd still be together if they had known what to do throughout the journey.
Yeah. And this is something, again, like we have been so honored and passionate about because we have had a lot of people come to us over the past years because we're very open. You know, there was infidelity in our relationship. There was a loss of an ex in our relationship. I think every relationship is so unique on how life happens, and it typically either allows you to grow apart or stronger together. And thank you, God, that it allowed us to come stronger together. But we've definitely had our fair share of should we be like the questions of like, should we be together, or is this the right thing, or maybe we're not right for each other. And it brought in a lot of confusion. And I'm so grateful that throughout the process, we had mentors as well who supported us along our path to get us to a stable and sturdy ground. You know, I think there's not many places or areas in life where people talk on relationships, right? You typically know what to do and know what not to do with a relationship based on your upbringing or based on the relationships around you. But what if you're in a scenario where neither of those areas really are the path that you want to go down? You know, divorce rates are as high as they have ever been. And I truly believe that's the last thing that we want to get into a relationship for, is for it to not work well. But instead of just throwing in the flag, like maybe there's actually a way around it. Maybe there is proper support. Maybe there is guidance. Maybe there is tools and tactics and skills that one can learn to really stand strongly and firmly in themselves, number one, and then in their relationship. And so this is something that has been so much on our hearts since we've been through our journey. Even when we were going through the challenge of infidelity, I knew that something powerful was going to come about it, of course, for our relationship, but also to support others. And even if you haven't listened to my podcast where I'm very open and I talk about what happened, even the people who reached back out to me was just so reaffirming of like, okay, speak more because you're not the only person who went through that. And so, yeah, yeah,
We're gonna make mistakes, and that's the beginning part of anything that you do. Is really be mindful of the mindset that we go into. So as we are about to go into the tactics of it, we're not gonna go too deep into it because this is the introduction for it. It's gonna be released, like what I mentioned, in February, Valentine's Day weekend. Valentine's Day is the official release date. So
the day before.
well, the day before is a pre-sale.
Just stay on top of it because we're going to be doing some fun discounts and we would love for you to be a part of it.
And we'll stay on top of you too. Like, make sure that you remember. The mindset's the most important part. And I think one of the things in relationships in the world of today that we forget is we have a society and we have the ability, we have technology that allows us to literally reach people across the world. And in our own neighborhoods, we have the ability to swipe left and swipe right to see who we would be more compatible with. Now we have this idea that because we have all these options, I get to choose all these people. In the past, that wasn't the case. In the past, and this is important to really be mindful of what our mindset is around it, because are we looking for that quick fix or are we looking for a sustained outcome? Because the quick fix is the swiping left and right, going out to dinner with somebody, maybe even getting into some sort of not relationship, into some sort of intercourse, only to realize like, oh, this doesn't really align with me. Well, did you jump the gun? Did you get into that too soon? In the past, people took their time. It literally was the sense of people growing together. Now it's like, she checks off this box, she checks off this box, she checks off this box. But there's that one thing with her toe that's just like kind of weird. I don't know if I can deal with that. Or, he looks good, he has a good job and career, he's doing really well with this, but he's still leaving his clothes on the ground. Like, I just don't know if I can actually commit to that. Right? It's the small little things that over the long term relationship kill it. But the idea of the relationship is you commit to the relationship. You can't expect to jump into a pool and not get wet. If you're going to be in a relationship, it's going to be an encompassing of everything that goes around it. And in order to be in a long-term relationship, you're going to have to grow together.
Yeah, this is something that we've talked on before. And as this isn't necessarily to support you in finding the one, quote unquote, it's more so to like nourish yourself and the relationship as a whole. But I think it's important to talk about it because, we do have so many options. There's so many possibilities out there. And I'm all about like, sure, you can visualize your partner, you can write down the characteristics and values that they have. However, just know that they're never going to fit in that box that you created for them. Not to perfection. No. And I think that we as a society are doing one another a huge disservice by just kind of checking people off without even giving them a chance. And a relationship is meant so you grow with that person. It's not that you both have both of your shit figured out and then you come together and live. Like, no, you kind of figure it out, especially if you're young. Maybe you figure it out during that time. Maybe if you're in a position where like you did get divorced and you're in your 40s or your 50s, like maybe then you have some things figured out and you come together. But if you're young and you're still figuring out your career and you don't have a family yet, like that's part of the journey for it. And so people can grow and develop. And so with that, all I want to say is like, no one's going to fit perfectly in your box. However, I think it is important for you to have values. And if there is willingness to grow in certain areas with the person that you are looking to be, have a long-term relationship with, give that person a chance. Don't just cut them off completely. But going back into the building blocks specifically, so during this episode, we're going to kind of go like through like a rundown of what it's all about. And so essentially, it's a 4-part series and a course. So it's similar to our podcast episodes that we have right now. We're going to be diving so deep into each topic. And then you and your partner will also have a workbook that you can take on and go through these different questions and prompts so you can develop a deeper sense of connection to yourself as well as to your partner to develop more intimacy and develop more connection. And so let's dive in.
Sure. And make sure you apply. Even from this conversation today, something could stick out for you that you could put to use. What's the point of information without putting it to use?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So 2 things in our experience that really make for a sustained and lifelong relationship: love and intimacy. What is love and intimacy? That's where we begin. We start to define what these 2 pillars of a relationship are, because our society confuses what those things are. And I don't think they do it intentionally. I just think it's what creates attention. And it's just the way in which, the quote, you complete me, or I'm nothing without you. Like, I'm nothing without you, baby. It's a great song. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it's not truth. And to understand what these things are starts to give us a solid foundation to be on. So love. What is love? What is love not?
Yeah, and we dive deep into those false beliefs around it so you can gain a clear sense of knowing for yourself of like, oh, okay. And instead of just believing what you see on TV or believing the movie, like you could have a solid foundation for yourself of what love is. Because growing up, like I thought love and like having a fairy tale magical experience was like the typical rom-com. It's like, okay, you go on a trip and like you're in a fight and then you meet someone and then that just like throws off sparks and like it's fun to imagine those type of things, but I honestly think that like those types of movies got me in a lot of trouble of like desiring something that I was trying to chase a fairy tale when in actuality it was harming my human experience in my relationship with Sebastian.
And they're telling you how that relationship
ends.
Like, what happened?
Yeah.
At the end, it's typically some sort of happy ending, and it's like, okay, but what really happened after that?
Yeah, yeah. And don't get me wrong, I still love a good rom-com. Like I'll still watch them, and but it's understanding like that's actually not reality. That's not truth. That's not why we are put on this earth to have a relationship for.
No, it's crazy because like as we talk about these myths and these realities, we as humans, we're so complex. There's so many things that make us up, and love is one of those things that's like adds a whole different complexity to the experience. I remember when you and I first started talking, we used to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning stargazing or out with friends somewhere, and used to come over at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was like we haven't seen each other in years. Meanwhile, we just saw each other 4 or 5 hours before that.
Yeah.
And fast forward a couple of years, and it's now 10 o'clock at night, and it's like, hey, we're gonna go do something. No, I'm tired. What happened? Where's that energy that before it was so hard for us to even get apart from each other? Now that we have the space to be in our own vicinity, it's like, I'm just gonna go to sleep. I'm tired. I want to be alone.
Yeah.
Understanding that love is much more than an emotion, and understanding that it's not enough is really the foundation upon which we can stand upon. Because look, love is a feeling. It changes, it shifts, it's an emotion. You can hear something that really gets you connected to the person in front of you, and that same person could say something 2 minutes later that completely distorts the whole reality of what you just experienced. So you go from being cuddly and muddly to now getting ready for war and taking out your pitchfork within a minute. All because a person said something, did something that you didn't quote unquote like. So to rely on a relationship based on emotions and feelings is to rely on a boat being in the water to be perfectly okay throughout a storm. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You gotta be able to navigate the storm.
Yeah. And then we also dive deep into understanding like intimacy.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that as a society, intimacy is so warped because we typically, again, get it from movies or porn. or just some other thing that comes into our experience that we think that we should be like always on fire for one another, when in fact intimacy can show up in so many different ways. And in fact, like, you could transform your relationship if you just have the awareness around being intimate, and not even just in a sexual way,
Sure.
in a close, connected, vulnerable way.
Yeah. And that's such a key thing in relationships, specifically in a relationship where it's funny, like how do I say, I was gonna say it. The man's like the microwave. The woman's like an oven. Remember we learned about this in an EXO marriage conference. It's like, and I don't just mean sexually, like you can look at it from a sexual context, of course, but you can look at it from any other context in the way in which, a man is much more quicker to get into action as a woman takes some time to get into the loop. In intimacy, like what I was just pointing to, intimacy is so much more than a sexual intercourse, than a physical touch. There is intimacy that can take place with a simple eye gazing, a simple holding of the hands, a simple taking a walk together. That is, in fact, actually a much deeper intimacy than a quickie before people go to work. Like that creates a deeper level of foundation where that building can actually rise, because there's a deeper understanding of each other. In order for there to be intimacy, there must be a safety and a security within the relationship. And there's going to be safety and security within the relationship. There needs to be a sense of understanding one another and oneself. Boundaries, expectations, assumptions, all of these things that we as humans are so quick to not even bring presence to, and because we're not presence to them, they get in the way. Totally unknown, totally unconscious.
Yeah. Which brings us into our second building block, which is what blocks love and intimacy.
Right.
It's one thing to know what it is, and then we have to understand, okay, well, then what's blocking it? What is the resistance there that's causing it not to happen?
Yeah. And with these blockages, again, this is why we as humans, we're so complex, because we are so good at putting up boundaries, because our mind is literally made up to defend. But also those same boundaries that are defending are also keeping out that which we want. So to be mindful and aware and present to and intentional about bringing down those boundaries allows that love and intimacy to come in. Sure, it could also allow some pain and some hurt to come back into the picture. But guess what? You were also more than likely harboring some pain and some hurt as well. So bringing down the wall, you're not allowing for that river to flow freely. And in that, now there's a deeper level of understanding. I always say that perfection is not about adding more things on, it's about getting rid of as much as possible. And in an intimate and loving relationship, that takes place. To be able to take away the layers of assumptions, of expectations, that again, getting away totally subconsciously and unconsciously allows there to be a connection that before was not possible. Not because there is no loving connection, because walls were not.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, and this is something that I continue to work through, and we talk about this within the course itself, but a big one that blocks it is criticism and disrespect. And I don't know what it is, but like where I grew up, like I grew up an athlete, and I grew up like a very competitive person. And the people around me on my team, it was always like, I don't know, we would just say like not the nicest things to one another, but it was always like in a joking manner, but like semi-truth. And then as I grew up and I got into a relationship, the people around me and my friend group were the same way. Like, I don't know if this is just like Point Pleasant or something, but like it was always just kind of like putting one person down, but like in a joking manner in a sense. And so I grew up in that way. Even my family was that way. And so getting into my relationship with Sebastian, like we'll be on the pickleball courts and he's on my team and I'll be putting him down, thinking that that's going to like motivate him to make him better, because maybe that's something that would motivate me. But in fact, it was just tearing us down. And I've noticed that there's been multiple times where I'll say things that just aren't supportive. And I'm like, why did I just say that? And so there's so many different little areas that we go into around expectations, around assumptions, that this is what really destroys it. And it's, if you want a connected, loving, and intimate relationship, there might be some blind spots in the way for you actually to obtain that. And in order to hear something or listen to something or do an exercise to unreveal those, that's when you can actually start to make a difference in your relationship.
Yeah, yeah. And it's understanding what those patterns that you can operate from that start to really reveal and unveil those things that have been getting in the way. This is why we always say that it starts with us. It starts with you individually. It starts with that personal responsibility to say, okay, what am I doing in this situation to be causing this? Because the moment we do that, now we're in power instead of being disempowered. Now we step into the place of being able to embrace our agency instead of giving away our control. And again, as humans, that could be very easy to do, especially in relationships, because we're human. And it's so much more easy. It's so much easier for us to look at the other person and their fault and what they could have done and what they should have done. But look, again, people don't do what they'll do. You can't control the wind, so why would we try to control somebody else's actions? To be able to be mindful of these blockages starts to uncover our patterns, and in the uncovering of the patterns, we can rewrite the patterns. We have the ability to do so as humans.
Yeah, and then we can build a strong foundation.
And now we have a strong foundation. Now we have the space for it.
Which is episode number 3.
Correct.
It's phase number 3 of really building it. Like, what actually does it take now? It's like, okay, we understand what intimacy is. We understand what love is. We understand what blocks both of them. Cool. Now, how do we actually create a solid foundation for a relationship? Like, oh my gosh, if I knew this in the beginning of our relationship, it would have been such a different experience. You know, coming up with agreements, understanding our needs, understanding our love languages, like all of this. And of course, I don't want to go back and redo anything because I think it happened in such perfection. But I think that we're not taught this. You know, we go to school and we have sex ed, okay? But like, can you actually teach me how to build like a proper family and a relationship? You know, and I think we're in such a beautiful day and age where this type of education is becoming more normalized and recognized of like, oh, I actually don't want to get a divorce. I don't want to have to go through that. So what do I have to do in order to have a strong foundation? And so we really like juiced this episode up because again, it's something that I really wish I had in the beginning, and I continue to build off of it.
You know, if you think of, you say we have sex education. It's like, wow, why don't we have self-education instead of sex education?
Whew, that's a good question.
Like, what if, as a child, I can bring myself back to being in high school, and I did a research paper on chlamydia.
Wow. I actually didn't even have sex ed.
What?
I had like one. Sorry, no, I'm going off, but
okay.
Yeah, I just had like one like little class because I was in vocational school, so they didn't add that in. I don't know.
That's interesting. That's pretty.
So no, I didn't have to write a research paper on chlamydia. So educate us.
No, I'm not gonna go into it because the visuals that are in my mind are just enough for me to skirt off the conversation. What I'm getting at though is here we all were presenting our presentations on our chosen STD, and they were like, okay, I don't want that, so I won't have sex. But what if instead of that, we would have looked at tools and skill sets to find love for ourselves?
Yeah.
Maybe a sense of forgiveness to understand our mistakes. Maybe a sense of communication so that when conflict arose with somebody else, you could actually understand.
Yeah. Maybe that's your next calling.
Who knows?
Go into the school system. Self-education class.
Self-education. That's some great sense. Once you're married. Not before then. I wish I would have thought about that.
Side note, Sebastian wanted to become celibate halfway through our relationship for being married.
Hysterical.
And I was not having it. So
hysterical. There was a lot of inaction for a prolonged period of time. The moment that I bring this up, that inaction turned to action, interestingly enough.
Okay. On to the next topic.
Okay, so now we know what it is, what it's not, love and intimacy. Now we understand the blockages. Now we got into how to create this deep foundation.
Well, the foundation of it. And then it's okay, once when that's created, here are your keys. Here's how to sustain it. Here's how to nourish it. Here's how to continue to put those logs on the fire that's lit, right? Because it's like you have those like embers that are really hot now. And if you don't keep putting logs on it, it's just going to go out. So like the keys are just like continuous logs on how to like keep it aflame.
Yeah. Oh man, I love that analogy. You just made me think of the amount of fires that we put together. And I love fire keeping. Fire keeping for me is like a sacred, like tribal ancestry that like connects me to my macho man. And no, I don't mean the immature patriarch. I mean the leader of a tribe holding together the fire. Because life can live around the fire.
You're so passionate about this right now.
I know, throughout building a fire, it takes so much time to do so. Like if you don't just put on a log and say, okay, light up. No, you gotta fan it, you gotta move it, you gotta move it some more, you gotta fan it some more. A relationship is the same way. You don't just put a log on and hope that it burns. No, you gotta first find the one that's dry, find the right spot for it. Maybe even move some around before you put that new log on to make sure there's a good structure for it and it's gonna actually give some longevity. Relationship is the same exact thing. To sustain that relationship, it requires a deep foundation, which we already spoke about. But then we got to create the actual building itself, the actual home.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I have right down in my notes here, like routine kills creativity.
Yeah.
Right. So like, yeah, if you just keep one log on there and it continues to burn, it's going to burn out.
Yeah.
Like you have to move things around and you have to be spontaneous and you have to be creative and you have to have fun. You know, there's so many relationships right now that unfortunately, like they're dead.
Yeah.
Like they're still together, still alive, but like they've ran out and they don't really know what to do. And so you have to get creative. I know for us, like we got into this routine of like every Friday night we go out to dinner because like we just wanted to get out of the house. We both work from home. So that was like our thing. We'd go out to dinner with friends, go out to dinner with just us. And I just got to this point where I'm just like, this is not fun for me. And at that same point, we're also trying to be mindful of how much we spend because in South Florida, that becomes a very big thing financially of going out every week. So we got creative and we had some incredible nights where we would just like get pizza, go up to the lifeguard stand and like dance. And
that will forever be one of my favorite nights.
Oh, that's special. Yeah. And like we just got creative. We had like a picnic, like we've had a few different picnics in the back of our trunk.
Yeah, in the back of the car. Pizza, always for the win.
Yeah, yeah. It rained on us one time. Like, and what I'm getting at is like you have to get creative, especially in a relationship. You know, it becomes so normal to just like sit down, put on Netflix and watch. And nothing's wrong with that, but have fun, do something different, do a different activity. And so in this last chapter, in this last phase, we really discover like how can you get creative? What are those keys? How can you understand your partner deeper, more and more and more each day, each week? Like I love finding out new things about you. I'm like, wait, you did do that? I remember we were on our honeymoon and we were mountain biking. And it was so gorgeous. And I was just like so in the moment, so present. And I've been with Sebastian probably 8 years at this point?
No, because you're married for 3. I guess, yeah, about.
No, around like 8 years. And we're riding and then he tells me like in Colombia he used to like mountain bike. And I had no idea. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love learning something new about you. Like I just like had this whole picture of like little Sebastian like going to the mountains of Colombia. Yeah, and that's so cool. So it's understanding like how you can understand your partner deeper, how you can be more creative, and also that comes with understanding yourself deeper. Like the moment like you know something about yourself, it's time to discover something different. Do things that scare you, like find out new things about yourself, challenge yourself, grow. And so yeah, so that's what makes up the building blocks of love and intimacy. And again, it's something that we just poured our experience and our hearts into because we've had so many different experiences that we're so blessed with, that we've had couples and even people who are single as well. And if you are single, we also invite you to still dive into this if it's something that's calling to you, because it's just about an amazing way to prepare yourself for that partner. But You've just been so blessed with over the years of having the ability to support people on their journey in their relationship. And it's something that we are so passionate about because we've noticed how much it's made a difference in our lives. And so we're just grateful and honored to be able to give this gift to you.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great experience for you to go through it. And I invite you, if you right now are not in a relationship, you maybe you want to be in one, but you just don't know what to do. Like, equip yourself with it. You want a map before you go in the woods, not when you're in the middle of the woods trying to figure out how to get out before the sun goes down because we're about to come out. Like, you want to have the map before, so you're well prepared, you're well equipped. And I honestly, I'm of the faith that we were created to experience life with another human being.
Hmm.
It's the most challenging and the most rewarding experience that I've been through yet, and it's still growing. Like, we just went through the 4 phases. Look, there's still times when Lauren and I are still figuring out and learning new ways to experience that love and that intimacy. It's not like you go from like step one, step two, step three, step four, and that's it. Step four. No, it's like you go through step 1 through 4, then you grow and you transform and you expand and you evolve as a human individually. You go back to step one.
Hmm.
And it's like over and over and over and over. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
That's what makes it fun. If we were still doing the same thing you were doing when we first met, we wouldn't be where we're at today.
Mm-mm.
We wouldn't be as connected. There wouldn't be the depth of relationship that we have. So if you right now are in an experience where maybe you are in kind of that stale mode, which again, we've been there. Lauren was mentioning before how a lot of relationships are walking around dead. We were there.
We were.
Literally laying down next to Lauren, feel like I was miles away, escaping through dancing and going out to try to find that fun. Looking back on that, I wish I would have had an understanding of, oh, maybe I'm just not communicating to her in a way which actually hears me. Or maybe I'm not properly being who she needs me to be for her to feel that level of connection. Maybe I realized that I am not who I'm supposed to be. So because of that, I should have be connected to her.
Yeah. And it's those blind spots. It's those areas that you just don't know you don't know
Yeah,
until a light gets shined on them.
yeah. And this could
And
be that life for you.
yeah,
This could be that life for you to start to take a look. Because again, love is not enough. It requires much, much more. And these tools are not enough for you to continue to build that relationship, not just for today, not just for tomorrow, but legacies ahead. Because again, that's another part. You're going to be procreating. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Regardless of you personally procreating or not, people are going to be watching what you're doing. And that leaves an example.
hmm,
Who we are today in our relationship is given by the examples that we followed. Now it's for you to say, okay, and what examples am I following?
yeah, yeah,
So thank you. I'm excited to
yes,
be releasing this. Keep an eye out. February 13th is when it's officially going live on the pre-sale. February 14th is when it'll go live altogether. And if you have any questions, if you want to learn more, if you want to connect on this, reach out to us. We're here to just dive deeper into conversation with you. If you want to know what this course is all about and to just create a deeper relationship.
yes. So thank you for tuning in and listening. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode. Oh, I really hope that you could hear me.